The bride graduated from junior high school with honors.
A junior high school graduate. The content of the profile introduction, I regretted not having checked it over. And at that moment, I found Caitlin's point is what my mother-in-law nearly said, and our eyes met. I'm Caitlin, now 28 years old. My husband, David, who is 2 years older than me, and I are currently in the midst of planning our wedding. And my mother-in-law was staring at me with a terrible look in her eyes. I could feel her staring at me with my body. To begin with, I hate my mother-in-law. David is a plastic surgeon. We met on the job, found that we got along well together, which then led to our marriage. Well, it's your typical kind of how one married. But at our first meeting, David's mother started bickering.
Does she work for a normal company?
If you are going to choose, you should choose a doctor, or at least a registered nurse. And an assistant nurse would be of little use, but a girl who works for a C that has nothing to offer. She must have pulled the wool over your eyes, David. There were the first words she said to me.
That's a rude thing to say.
I was the one who fell in love and proposed to her.
He said, with disapproval.
Do you really think you can have a married life with just a flirtation and a fling?
The difference in our educational backgrounds make us different humans.
I was stunned.
Apparently, this seems to be my mother-in-law's catchphrase. My husband graduated from Harvard. For my mother-in-law, who really is biased, Harvard graduate is equivalent to the king of all beasts, the strongest lion in the human world.
Did you know?
If you're a Harvard graduate, you can eye yourself any job you want. But as you go down the university ranking, there are some jobs you just can't get. In other words, when you look ahead to your future, what do you see? By going to Harvard, you'll have access to a wide range of resources that will help you achieve your goals. By the way, how about your father?
What? Well, I'm not sure. Just like Cinderella's stepmother, she was cruel to her.
She placed the back of her hand over her mouth and laughed in a high-pitched voice.
Only graduating from high school is going to
Limit one's possibilities even more.
Amongst the talk of my father's educational background,
She didn't ask about my education. This was a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Well, my mother-in-law was just unbelievable, but I still love David very much. She was a problem, but we don't have to live together. As long as we get through this wedding ceremony, we're only likely to meet at New Year's or during the summer vacation. However, I had no idea that a bomb would explode on the day of the wedding. It happened while the bride and the groom's biographies were being introduced.
Caitlin, the bride, graduated from junior high school with excellent grades.
There was no question that my mother-in-law would let this one pass.
Let's enjoy the party.
As soon as the meal was served, she came over to us.
So I heard.
I'm sure you did. My mother-in-law puffed up her nose, glared down at me and said,
So you only finished junior high school? Is that still possible today?
her words were of no surprise.
but I'm not sure if it's a good idea to use this method. The difference in education makes us different as human beings. My mother-in-law's theory was that she had been forced to listen to it, which was predictable. What did you say? What did you say just now?
My husband graduated from Harvard and my son is a doctor.
You just don't match up to our standards. Just graduating from junior high school is the lowest kind of education. I told you that the difference in education makes us different as human beings. So, having someone so low as you join family, your DNA will have a negative impact on your family's future genetic makeup.
My mother-in-law's voice grew louder and louder.
Our conversation was being overheard by people sitting near us, and people started to glance over at us. My husband, who was concerned about the situation, began to say,
What? You don't know, Mom? Caitlin is?
But he couldn't finish his words because
the host, who sensed that things were getting tense, intervening, she said, "Let's move on to the next part of the program." Acknowledged the host, and with a smile, I urged my mother-in-law to go to her seat.
You don't have to tell me to go back. You're a junior high school graduate.
After the ceremony, I'm going to talk to you about your divorce. I wouldn't be able to stand seeing the genes of this family destroyed by someone like you.
my mother-in-law turned away, tossing the hem of her dress.
Oh, I'm sorry, Caitlin.
My husband apologized.
It's all right. You don't need to apologize to me, I replied with a smile. As I looked at my mother-in-law going to her seat, looking triumphant, murmured to myself, I'll make sure you understand. You just wait and see. Looked down and smiled smugly. The party continued, and it was time for congratulatory greetings. Congratulations on your marriage. Looking back, when I saw how she superbly performed the task of wiping the table, I could see her keen, brilliant sense of observation. Pearl Holdings, public relations manager.
What?
My mother-in-law stood up from her seat.
The host continued, I am so happy to hear about your marriage. For already 6 years, I would like to thank you for your valuable contribution to our company's success. I wish you a great family. Director of Public Relations Group, Public Relations Department, Minkowski Davidson.
My mother-in-law looks as though she is about to start running.
We have received many other messages, but I would like to introduce to you just their names. The names of large corporations continue to follow.
What?
My mother-in-law looks as though she is about to fall over.
After hearing the congratulatory mess, she came over to our table. She had on a look of complete disbelief on her face, and her husband, who is a graduate of Harvard, desperately tried to stop her. My mother-in-law completely ignored him, but she screamed at me.
All right, what is going on here?
You need to explain this to me.
She's talking to me like I was the villain.
What do you mean, what's going on here? I was about to retort when my husband interrupted.
So that's why I asked you earlier, don't you know?
Caitlin appears in company commercials, but she doesn't use celebrities. She's a famous actress in that field.
My mother-in-law was blinking furiously, as if she couldn't believe his words.
She never listened to anybody, so she is probably thinking that she is hearing this all for the first time. Whenever we met her, she would brag about Harvard on her own. She didn't understand anything about us. My husband, after all this time, is talking about such things to his own mother. How comical is this situation?
I met Caitlin at a party.
Because she appeared in our cosmetic clinic's commercial. I was trying to explain all of this to you, but all that you kept saying were, about her parents' academic background, she said that both of them were teachers. On her parents' academic background, she said that both of them were teachers.
My husband sighed.
Yes, exactly. Also, he breathed out. After taking a breath, what's wrong with only finishing junior high school? What is the difference between a dry and wet cleaning? Then my mother-in-law, in a shrill and unstable voice, yelled,
I already told you.
If you think about your future, going to Harvard gives you the most number of options.
Right. The future.
It's as though I hadn't given any thought to my own future then. I need to make her really understand this. I took a deep breath and started. Then you would start looking for a job after university, right? And when you turn 22 and graduate, you finally join the labor market. If you have a job you want to do, and if that's why you want to go to Harvard, I get it. But according to you, wouldn't your goal be to go to Harvard rather than for your future career? I wanted to work as an actress. I started working towards achieving my goals as soon as I graduated from high school at age 1. I didn't hesitate to make my decision as to what I wanted to be in the future and got off to a quick start. I was able to start working and making my contributions to this society at an early stage in life. You're right that Harvard is consistently ranked among the highest-ranking universities in the world. Of course, it takes a lot of hard work to get there, but I, too, worked my butt off. I don't need you criticizing me just because I only graduated from junior high. I'm not that confident in my looks. That's why I chose to fight with my acting skills by appearing in commercials and reenactment dramas and be the top actress in the field. Sol continued to study acting while holding down a part-time job. Levin went to a movie theater on the outskirts of town with just a piece of paper. You have no idea how much effort it took and how much motivation I needed to go through such times of uncertainty. I would like you to stop looking down on me with the prejudices of a junior high school graduate. It is true that middle school graduates are less educated. On the other hand, they have a head sewn working for the society. The determination and bravery of a junior high graduate are the source of our pride and our strength. It is wrong to rank people by their educational background. Then I changed the subject. You've been repeatedly saying, my husband is. Then is there something that you've hard for up until now?
Oh, well, that's,
She mumbled.
Well,
S snickered.
although that was meant as a sarcastic remark, Mary looked at me as if she had received a helping hand.
that's,
She boasted of her beauty.
There was a slight pause.
You didn't work hard.
David intervened.
Yes, this remark is based on what I had heard from David. David explained.
You always said, your father graduated from Harvard. Make sure to work hard. I expect no less of you.
You always just kicked my butt, but did nothing for me. I did manage to become a doctor, but I was always afraid I wouldn't be able to meet up your expectations. So, because of that, when you were asked whether you were good at raising your children, you weren't able to reply right away.
When people's hotspots are hit, they try to pass it off with their emotions.
Mother-in-law was no exception to this, and she screamed, losing all control.
Harvard, they are great. They are the smartest.
She was cornered.
She was like a broken gramophone repeating the same thing over and over again. And because she is so loud, it's extremely irritating. If you were going to get broken, it would be better that you be silent. It was her husband, my father-in-law, who stopped the broken record player.
He grabbed her shoulders.
She was pulled away from our table.
Hey there.
This time, she was shrieking at him.
Father-in-law quietly stopped her and gently. When I first saw you working so hard at a flower shop, you were so adorable. Although you were not a keen learner, you learned how to use so for me. I married you because I saw how dedicated you were. You changed the day after we got married. Your favorite phrase becomes, I'm a Harvard graduate. You said it, everyone, including your own son. Do you have something that you could truly say is your own?
She opened her eyes wide open and shouted at him with her spit flying.
I was chosen by you, a Harvard graduate.
That is my greatness. Because Harvard me.
Father-in-law sighed with a desperate look on his face.
I'm great because Harvard chose me.
The name value of Harvard means Eve to you, right?
It seems as though he had made up his mind.
Maybe this is the way a marriage falls apart.
In a way, as we send David to start his life with his wife, you and I should also go our separate ways. When this wedding is over, we'll talk about our divorce. It's not about David and Caitlin. It's about our divorce.
Mother-in-law's body began to shake.
And at that moment, when she was about to shout, my own mother came bursting into the room.
Why, you people?
She shouted in an incredibly loud voice.
And stood between my mother-in-law. Mom. My mouth opened in surprise.
How dare you do such a thing at my daughter's wedding?
Just look around you. Everyone was silently watching us because my mother-in-law had become a shrieking, broken record player. It seemed as though no one dared to speak. Well, it's not surprising. At your child's wedding, whose parents would dare to fight so scandalously like this? My mother seemed beside herself.
Today is the day.
When should my daughter celebrate her birthday? And her husband's parents ruin their wedding. What on earth do you think I'm doing?
With that, my father-in-law said,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, and lowered his head. But even with his apology, my mother could not be abated.
It's true that my daughter only graduated from junior high.
I told her that if she wanted to study acting, she needed to start taking classes. You can finish high school and get to know the world a little better before doing so. But since Caitlin had made up her mind, and since she said she wants to pursue it, I wanted to do all that I could do for her.
Because my mother-in-law tried to open her mouth to speak, my mother hurriedly continued.
You said that Harvard is great because they are the smartest.
You said that right? Then I want you to clean out your ears and listen to me real hard.
Her voice was a good match for the broken record player's volume.
My daughter taught herself French because she said it was absolutely necessary for acting.
She is now completely fluent in French. I don't think she deserves to be looked upon as a junior high graduate, especially with her level of French.
Fluent in French.
It's not the easiest language to learn. Most likely, no one would even suspect that I would be fluent in another language. I did everything I could think of to improve my acting. And that is how I came to be fluent in French. And my mother made her final remark.
I would like you to absolutely put aside your academic prejudice.
There was a round of applause.
We're going home. Can't stand to see you embarrassing yourself any longer.
Father-in-law lowered his head to my mother.
He pulled the screaming mother-in-law out of the hall. That is how our wedding ended. My friends congratulated me, and I was very happy to be able to wear a wedding dress. And my father-in-law got divorced from my mother-in-law. After having sheltered under the name Valley of Harvard and being immersed in feeling herself special that way, there was nothing she could do now, all by herself. She went back to her hometown somewhere far away. Even David, her son, bore such a heavy grudge against her for raising him under the mantra of the best, that he said he would not give his most cent to help her with her living expenses. I've continued to work as an actress in television commercials. Sometimes low mouth for the dentist, or act as a store manager of a shop, or lay down on the ground at the scene crime. I do all sorts of things. In the midst of all this, I became pregnant. In life, an academic qualification is important. Placing one's value in that one thing is good. We should constantly work on improving ourselves. Tomorrow, we will be a better version of ourselves. By continuing to work hard, we will be even better than yesterday. I gently touch my stomach that is growing bigger by the day. Tomorrow, for sure, it will become bigger.